Here we go!
We're feeling very gay because it's almost time to play. Grab your favorite chair with the lucky Pierres. Yeah!
All right, guys, welcome back to the Lucky Pierres movie reviews. Tonight we got another one for you from 1982. This one is called Blade Runner. All right, guys, we got our special guest, our buddy Phil here. He loves Blade Runner, big fan. So I was like, Phil, you want to come on the show and talk about Blade Runner? And he said, hell yes, I do. And Phil,
I feel like that's not how the conversation went.
That's exactly what happened.
No, I bribed him into it.
He's never been that enthused in his life. Hell yes, I do.
No, but Phil, you want to give like a plot synopsis? It's a pretty, I guess, tough one to, sum up, but you go ahead.
It's not that tough, but I'll take over from here.
All right.
So super quick, before we even get into the plot synopsis, if anyone that is a fan of Blade Runner, there's been, I believe, 8 or 9 versions over the years. So we're going to cover the final cut version. We, for anyone who's, because the original theatrical version had a bunch of added stuff, and they went back and they removed all that stuff because the original director didn't feel it was necessary, didn't add to the movie. And I agree 100%. The final cut is the way to go. So if you've never seen it, that's the version you're going to want to see. So
yeah, that's the one I watched. That's one we all watched, right?
That's probably the more
HBO
mainstream
Max.
one because on Netflix.
Yeah. Great movie. Give a plot synopsis of it, Phil.
Awesome. So the super quick plot synopsis is there are beings called replicants, which are made to look like humans, but they are not humans. And the Blade Runners are called in when the replicants illegally, come to Earth and battle, because they're the replicants are made to be slaves in the off-world to do manual labor, things of that nature. And a group of replicants hijacks the ship and comes back to Earth. And the whole purpose of their trip is replicants have a lifespan that is very short, and they are here to get a hold of, get their hands on the people who made them to see if they can, in fact, have their life expectancy increased.
Yeah.
That's where Harrison Ford comes in. He is Deckard. He is the Blade Runner. He's the very best Blade Runner, and they pull him out of retirement to get into it with these 4 replicants.
And to retire them, if you will.
Correct. So that is, yes, that is exactly what it is.
How long were you holding that?
That's pretty long. But
Yeah.
No, but that was a great synopsis, Phil.
Great is overstated, but I appreciate it.
I love that the whole debate, conspiracy, whatever hypothesis that it shares a universe with Alien.
Yeah.
Because Ridley Scott has come out and said that that's factual.
Yeah,
and
but
then other people still debate it.
I got a question, though. Wouldn't the androids have white blood if it did? Or is it...
Maybe it was just the first model.
Well, I mean, they're not the same time frame.
That's true.
It's like...
Yeah.
But allegedly, like, the company that makes the replicants becomes whatever the corporation is in Alien.
I mean, I think regardless of Aliens in the same universe or not, it inspired tons of like other sci-fi movies.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
Yeah,
so many other movies.
That was the one thing that, and I've been a Blade Runner fan since I saw it on TV as a kid. But yeah, when you go back and you watch Alien, and you even watch movies from other directors like The Terminator, like the lighting effects and things like that, like clearly, Blade
even not
Runner's-
sci-fi movies, like just straight up rip scenes off of it.
Yeah, 100%. So, and it's like when you think about that movie was made in 1982, and you look at like just the setting and the scenes and everything.
The special effects, yeah.
I remember seeing it when they released the final cut in 2007, I believe it was. I saw it in the theater, and it blew me away still. Like,
still holds up.
Even compared to like newer movies, I was like, oh my God, this world is just so captivating. I'm like, I don't care. If it was just 2 hours of people walking around that place, I'd be like, this movie rules.
Rainy, neon, Tokyo, like, well, it is LA, but like rainy, neon...
Just noir
technology,
atmosphere.
yeah, noir. It's awesome.
That was the first thing, like right off rip. I was like, for 1982, this looks wild.
Yeah, it does. It has aged very well.
But I like that it starts and it says 2019 LA.
Yeah, flying cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Not exactly what LA is looking like.
I remember
these days.
that was 3 years ago.
I also want the neon dragon light that's in it immediately.
Yeah,
like when it's showing the Chinatown, and it's I just want that light.
The one part
It
that
is
made me
super
laugh
cool.
is because it's set in 2019, but then the guy lives in a hotel by himself, and he says like, "Yeah, there's plenty of room for everybody. There's no one needs housing," which is like opposite of how it is.
ridiculous.
So to kind of further the story, as you would imagine, the replicants show up and they cause a bunch of trouble, and there's some really great action scenes in the movie. and they find their way to the doctor who created them, and that was a really cool scene. In my opinion, kind of backtracking, Rutger Hauer's role as Roy Batty is like one of my favorite villains in every movie.
He's awesome in it.
So
He's great.
creepy. He's so weird. Like that slow cadence that he has to the way he talks. Like everything he says just carries like so much weight. And just the first time you see that guy on the screen, you're like, oh, this dude's a badass.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
And then when he's stalking him through that building later is so scary.
At the end, he
We'll
straight
get
up
to that.
looks like he's in Black Flag.
Kind of
When he's
Definitely
like
see
giving
that,
his
yeah.
speech shirtless with blood on his face.
Which that speech is so awesome.
Yeah, it
That
is.
whole scene in the rain is great.
Yeah, it's funny because every time I watch, even though I've seen Blade Runner 25 times in my life, I feel like that speech is way longer than it is because I remember it being so epic. It's pretty short.
It's like 1 minute. But
Yeah,
it feels like
it wraps
10
up
minutes
pretty quick. But yeah, it's so epic. So, so that's the one thing going on is the replicants are working their way towards getting more life. And on the other side, you have Deckard who is hunting the replicants, but he visits the doctor and meets his secretary, whatever it is, and there's like this side love story going on, and it turns out that she is also a replicant, and she doesn't know she's a replicant, so that unfolds throughout the movie as well. And
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to say that'd be so like sad to realize that. You know what I mean? To realize that your memories were implanted and you're a robot basically. That'd
Not just that, but you only have 4 years.
Yeah,
to
and
live.
4 years to live. That'd be tragic.
Okay, but hypothetical. If they have a 4-year lifespan and you fall in love with one, couldn't they just make a properly aged model for you every 4 years and you just live happily ever after?
You're seeing this as like leasing a car. You just
Yeah.
bang it out and then get a new one.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it'd be the same one because it's the same memories, just put in another body.
Yeah, just transplant it. You know what I mean?
And then they have to
person that
age it.
falls in love with the replicant feels that way, but
Yeah, I don't know that that's what the intention was, but I see where you're going.
This model's all used up. Let me get a
Well,
new
I mean,
one.
if it's going to die in 4 years, but then they could just make you another one that's properly aged.
I
4
get
years
it.
later.
Yeah, they could. I mean, it's a lot of work.
And then when
but
you
yeah.
die, they just stop because you're dead.
I don't think the idea is that you're supposed to fall in love with the replicants. I don't think that's
But it's
where
a
they
big
were
plot
going
line
with
in the
that.
movie.
Yeah.
It is, but it's the only time it's happened.
Hey, and that's also
That they let you know of.
that's also a unicorn. The thing with the unicorn, like a one of a kind instance when he falls in love with this replicant when normally he hates him. You know what I mean? So it's this one's just different. That's the symbolism for the woman. You know what I mean?
I see what you did with the unicorn.
Yeah, yes.
does he hate them or is it just his job to take them out? I don't know if he harbors any hate toward them, really.
I don't know. His demeanor through the whole thing tells me otherwise. I thought. What do you think, Phil? I think he kind of has a disdain for him.
I don't think it really expresses that he hates them, but yes, he spent his whole life
Hired to kill them.
retiring them. So that's his job. He probably just has zero emotional attachment, and that's part of the movie, and that's part of the overlying story is he just viewed them as robots, but it's the meaning of the value of life is kind of what they're kind of getting at. Does it matter that it's a replicant or a human? It loves, it feels.
Yeah.
He loves it as he would a person. So does it really matter?
So it's okay if you fall in love with your computer.
Yeah.
The theme in the end is the dude more human than humans? He has more emotions than
Which
actual
that has
humans.
to be where the zombie song came from.
100%.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Randomly, I know White Zombie, I know Fear Factory, I know multiple bands have direct sound clips they've ripped right from Blade Runner. Half the hardcore bands you've ever listened to,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you'll catch some Blade Runner there. But that's the Tyrell Corporation. Their slogan is more human than human. Kind of as we move towards the end of the movie, there's kind of an epic confrontation. The helper of the doctor. They find the Blade Runners at that apartment, and so Deckard hunts them down, and there's a big final confrontation, and that kind of leads you to the final act of the movie, which Ben alluded to, which I think is great. There's the two final Blade Runners, or the two replicants, and then Harrison Ford, the Blade, Deckard is there, and they have this final showdown, which leads to a really cool scene where, Deckard kills one of them, and then Roy, the kind of the leader of the gang, Deckard is going to die. He's hanging off the edge of a building, and Roy saves his life and pulls him back on the roof and tells this interesting story, which is, and Harrison Ford does a great job, and it looks like he's learning in that moment, kind of the value of this guy learned and knew right from wrong, despite being a robot, and I was going to kill this guy.
Yeah.
So
He has more like feelings than actual humans for the most part.
right, and that's kind of what when you go back with people. And I was touched on this a minute ago when people talk about what is the meaning of Blade Runner. Like when you watch that movie, like what do you get out of it? That's what a lot of people allude to is like that like sometimes that can be what defines like humanity, what defines that like just because a lot of people do some pretty inhumane shit every single day, and this robot made the right choice.
Yeah.
He could have just let Deckard fall off that building, but like Roy knew his time was up. He knew he was done soon, and so he saved Deckard.
That's what that test was for, just to test like their emotions and their right from wrong choices. You know what I mean? Their morality, but yeah, that's what this movie's about. It's just mortality and just right from wrong and like what is human, like you said. Yeah,
It's just way deeper than a sci-fi movie than you expect. There's not tons of action, but just the story and the world it creates and the deeper meanings and stuff is what it's all about.
I love how that like they were going to seek out their maker like because they want to live longer. Imagine if we had a maker, you know what I mean? Like, and we were like, well, we want to live longer. We're gonna go seek that person.
You mean like people in religion?
No. Yes, I do mean that. Yes, but it's impossible for us to seek those people out. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's what most people spend their whole lives doing.
yeah, but I mean, actually in person is what I'm saying.
Walt Disney figured it out. He got frozen, so he's living forever.
Maybe if you have enough money.
Yeah.
So, but no, I agree with what Joe said. I think that's one of the things. Like I've seen the movie over and over again over the years, and it's still like it's just such a compelling story. Like you get wrapped up in the story as you're watching it, and it's just so much deeper than your average sci-fi movie. And there's not as much action as some of them, but the action. I think the action sequences are great, and it tells such a great story. And again, like Shaw touched on it earlier, just such an impactful movie because so many movies have borrowed from it, and it set the tone for so many movies. So
Yeah, I don't think you would appreciate it enough if you only see it once.
right,
Because you're going to be like, that was kind of slow. But if you see it enough times, you're like, oh, I get like,
It grows on you.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in it that you don't notice the first time.
It's such a fully realized like world too. You know what I mean? Like it's so just beautiful and awesome. And it's great, man.
What do you think about, you guys think he was a replicant in the end? What do you guys think?
I don't think he was because
I think he was.
we don't see he has superhuman strength and the agility because he couldn't make that jump and he couldn't like battle Roy, you know what I mean, face to face. He didn't want to. I don't know.
But if you don't think you're a replicant, you don't think you have those abilities. So it's
yeah, but
like,
wouldn't he see it through his life? Wouldn't he know he's lived longer than 4 years,
not
right?
if they implant a lifelong of memories into you.
that's a good point because you could think you lived a whole life and you could have lived like 2 weeks.
That's why there's always the back and forth.
Wouldn't the police chief like?
Well, I mean,
A lot of people say-
if they know, why would they tell him? He wouldn't do his job. If
That's
he,
true.
If he
That's
was
true.
A lot of people say that's why that
Interesting.
guy followed him around the whole time, that cop.
Yeah.
So he could keep a watch on him, make sure he didn't get loose.
Yeah.
But he kind of treated him like crap because he was a replicant. He didn't really like him. Like he was kind of like a prick toward him the whole movie.
He was.
Yeah, the whole time.
I forget that guy's name, but
But
cop?
Gaff.
Yeah, Gaff.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was just an a-hole the whole time.
I said I wish the Unicorn Dream would have gone into Devil Story territory with the horse scenes.
Yeah.
Please
You've
no.
never seen this movie.
No.
I have not.
There's a horse scene in Devil Story.
There's a horse like running in circles and a man shooting a gun in it and missing for like half an hour of the movie.
It sounds
It's a
terrible.
very,
And it just keeps
very
coming back
cheesy
to it.
80s
And
horror.
it's just like the horse just running in circles and he's like missing the whole
Yeah,
time.
but what do you guys think? Do you think he was a replicant or
I
not?
do, because what else is the point of the unicorn dream and then him leaving the little origami?
Yeah, but also when he breaks his fingers, when Roy breaks his fingers, would a replicant act like that when he gets his fingers broken
if he
like
thinks
that?
he's
He
real.
snaps him right back.
Like Pinocchio, he's the real boy.
I don't know.
It can be debated, but I think there's multiple things that like lean toward him being a replicant. I don't know.
What do you guys think?
And then they say there's a scene in the movie, like a glimmer, where his eyes glow like a replicant.
Really? I missed that.
I didn't see it either, but they like. When I was reading reviews, and
Joe's
stuff,
using for his argument. I mean, I don't know if
I didn't go back and watch where they said it was, but there's a part they said.
So it's funny because number one, I don't have an answer, and I think that over the years, like even the people who made the movie and were in the movie have implied both ways. So I don't think they want you to know, and I think that's kind of part of the magic because you're led to believe he's human, but then they plant these little things through the movie, and that's in the final scene of the movie is when Deckard is revealing to, and for some reason her name escapes me, the secretary, the girl he falls in love with.
Yeah.
Why her name escapes me, I don't know.
I can't remember either.
But anyway, there's a scene where, he just had informed her that she's a replicant, and Deckard falls asleep and has this dream about a unicorn. It's a very, very brief scene. And at the very end of the movie, Gaff, the cop who follows him around, who does origami throughout the movie, folds up a unicorn and leaves it for Deckard, almost as like a, I know. Yeah. And Deckard's like, oh no. And so he runs to the elevator, him and the girl escape, and that's the end of that's where the film ends. So it's very strongly implied at certain points, but to Ben's point, there's a lot of things that he seems very human throughout the whole movie. So,
yeah.
But if he was a replicant, I feel that would be the whole point, is how human he seemed.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
That's why.
And they went back and added that unicorn dream.
Joe is not going to let this go until we agree that
I'm
he is
saying how I felt.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a replicant.
No, you make some good points.
I have no strong stance. I just think it's cool that you can
take
go
it either way.
Yeah. I think
it's very ambiguous.
And that's one of the cool things about this movie. There's a lot of things in that movie that are left to interpretation, and circling all the way back to the very beginning. That's why the final cut is so great, because when they released the movie in 1982, the film movie company felt that there was too much ambiguity in the movie, and they had them go back, and Harrison Ford did some voiceovers, and they added these scenes that really kind of tied everything up and made it much less
ambiguous.
Yes, much less.
Clearly
open.
it didn't, because we all
much more exposition, if you will.
They thought the public was too dumb to piece it together.
I mean,
and that's
which
probably
they are.
fair.
100%.
That's what they say about good directors. They don't treat the audience like an idiot. You know what I mean? But it wasn't his. I'm sure it wasn't his choice. It's the studio and whatnot.
It was 1982, and Ridley Scott wasn't who Ridley Scott became to be in 1982.
I wish he was not senile at this point.
He's like 85, so
doesn't mean I want him to be senile no matter how old he is.
No, but you gotta understand.
Maybe Ridley Scott is a replicant this whole time. There's the real plot twist.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Got real deep on this one.
But what if I got a hypothetical question? What if we die and then we realize that we were all replicants?
I won't be surprised for a second. We're all in a matrix, and
But if you die, how would you realize anything?
No, because you'd wake up in one of them matrix chambers or whatever the hell.
it's just that easy. You just wake up. And,
all right.
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
All right, yeah.
I don't know.
I wanted something more, but all right.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Call me an idiot or something.
you know, the ending of Inception is kind of somewhat similar. How the top's spinning and it doesn't fall.
Yeah.
So you don't know if he's in a dream or if he's in reality.
You're right. I didn't put that together. Those two are actually very open-ended, twisty endings. You know what? I love that. Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about Blade Runner all day, but I think we've covered the plot pretty well. We've covered the kind of overlying
I would
view
like
of the
Phil's
public.
opinion if he's a replicant or not. That's cool.
He said he has no strong opinion.
Yeah, I don't.
I would like a strong opinion.
If you had to say,
I told you Joe wasn't going to let it go. I think that you could make a very strong case either way.
I'm not accepting.
And like I said, the fact that even the director and the person who played Deckard
are back and forth
have said, I think they're just trolling the public, because it's been documented that Ridley Scott said no, he's human, and then he said he's a replicant.
Right.
So, I don't
we've
think.
established he's senile.
Yes, that's true. So,
all right.
Let's ask him his opinion now. Get him on the horn.
Yeah.
Do you have any instances of scenes from other movies that you think were directly ripped off of Blade Runner? Because I have a few.
I think there's a lot, but
I think Sebastian's spot, with all the toys or whatever, was Edward Scissorhands and Toy Story ripped off that whole room 100%.
and Puppet Master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then tiny heads clown.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The little people or dwarves or whatever, running through the street in that
Toys.
scene. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought they were his toys, but then it just turned out to be midgets or whatever.
Little people, yes.
Ewoks and Jawas, 100%. That scene, they even have glowing eyes. I was like,
Could see that.
they just stole it. In the scene in the apartment building, right before the last battle with all the lights and Roy howling and stuff. Lost Boys did that scene exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many sci-fi movies that took stuff.
The Crow, that whole when they run through that room and there's just the pigeons and boarded up windows and the dust in the air looks exactly like the Crow, and that whole building scene is the whole setting of the whole Crow movie.
Fair. I hadn't thought of it because I haven't watched that movie in 20 years.
Yeah, but
I just jotted down all the things.
I didn't put any
Yeah.
of those together, but yeah, those are some good ones. Good comparisons.
Yeah, the first one I always get reminded of, and it's not a specific scene, but like that the general scenery is the Terminator.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like James Cameron watched Blade Runner, and he's like, "Man,
I wanna do this."
This movie rules."
Yeah,
you know,
you're
He's like-
right.
He's like, and we're gonna set like the entire scenes. It just has a very similar feel. And again, like obviously Alien is the same way, but it's another Ridley Scott film, so it's going to feel that way. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like it really influenced so many movies.
100%. You can't argue that. But you guys want to get to ratings? It's out of 10, Phil. So what did you guys give it?
I give it an 8.5.
I was also the same. I gave it an 8.5.
Yeah, I was at 8.5, 9, but I'm sticking with a 9. But I will preface it with, if I had seen it like when I was a child, it would 100% be a 10 out of 10. But I am now an old man and jaded and angry, so it's a 9.
But I think I'm older and more jaded. But like,
But you did see it back then.
that is fair. So I did see
like
it
if I
as a
saw
kid.
this in theaters as a kid, I'd still be shitting my pants.
It is possible. So, but even aside just from how much I enjoy the movie, like I said, when you step back to me and we talk about how influential it is and everything that it does right. If it's not a 10 out of 10, no sci-fi movie ever is a 10 out of 10.
That's fair.
So that's my feelings. But again, I am admittedly biased. I literally have Blade Runner sweatpants at home. So
I mean, all movies are subjective. So.
yeah, so like I said, but yeah, and again, like I've been loving and enjoying this movie since I was a kid, and I've always argued with people. I get in massive arguments with people.
You? Never.
I know, shocking, right? Because I always tell people that they, because like in the early 80s, who was a hotter commodity than Harrison Ford? He was Han Solo, he was Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
and he was Deckard.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that my favorite movie is in is Blade Runner, and people lose their fucking minds. They're like, not better than Indiana Jones. And I'm like, yes, it is. Deal with it.
They're all great franchises. You know what I mean? They're all great movies, and he's a
Yeah.
legendary actor.
Yeah.
You gotta
Did you
love-
see
best man, deal with it.
the new Blade Runner?
What's that?
Did you see the new Blade Runner?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about it?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly not on the level of the original,
Well,
but
that's
it
what
was.
I anticipated, like liking the new one more when I hadn't seen either one all the way through. Just because I was like, well, it has to be like, it's 30 years later. Like they have to advance how it looks or how it plays out. Like,
Nope.
it didn't. Like it was not that much better visually or anything. It was very pretty, and it was not a better movie. But I'm a fan of watching Gosling kick ass, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah, it's an enjoyable film for sure. So.
Yeah, I just know when you like
Bautista really killed it.
a movie inspires you that much and you love it that much. If they make a sequel, you're like, oh god, this
I
is
was-
gonna be.
Oh yeah, it's touchy ground.
I was very skeptical. I do my best to not like shit on movies before I see them. It's hard to do, but especially with like
We do that a lot.
especially like
Reboots and stuff.
well, yeah, especially
Sequels and reboots?
horror movie remakes and comedy sequels. Like
Yes.
it's almost set in stone they're going to be garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's a rare exception that surprises you. So I try to not go in with a jaded thing. And I didn't see Blade Runner 2049 in the movies because I was like, I'm gonna hate it.
Yeah.
And then I had to like mentally take like an additional year to prepare.
That's what it is, yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna sit down and watch this and give it a fair shot. And it was pretty good.
Yeah,
And
it was
all,
good.
all the little companion stuff I thought was pretty badass too. Like all the 4 or 5 shorts that they released leading up to it was all pretty cool.
Yeah, they did a really cool job with it. So.
All right, we will get to final verdict, Phil. We got see it ASAP, see it whenever, or skip it. Of course, everyone.
Yeah,
what do you guys
any
think?
questions?
See it ASAP. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you're
classic.
planning on watching, skip it and watch Blade Runner.
Yeah.
One of
'cause
the
it's
greatest
better.
sci-fi movies ever.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna play. We have a game here, Phil.
Oh,
It's
I was
the-
going to tell Phil this. I used a quote from Blade Runner for this quote game,
Ooh,
and they didn't guess it.
you mother effers.
Yeah, we do the quote game, and one of us says a quote, and the others have to guess it. So
Okay.
I don't know whose turn it is.
I think it's your turn because you guys
Oh, yeah.
didn't get Blade Runner.
Okay, so let me think of one real quick.
And it was the Roy speech, too.
It's tough to get on the spot quotes. No matter how much.
It's
you love
always
the movie.
embarrassing when someone, it's like, because like someone dropped like a Blade Runner and I wouldn't know it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, that fucking fraud. He said it's his
I know.
favorite movie ever.
It's like it's such an obscure quote. You're like,
exactly.
When Joe's last turn, I finished the quote before he said it, and I had no idea what movie it was from.
It happens sometimes. And then once you hear what it is, like you can see the scene
Yeah,
like
you're just
in front
so
of
pissed,
you.
like, God.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got the movie quote game for you. I got a movie quote for these guys, and they got to guess it. Here we go. I like the way you die, boy.
Django.
Yep, Django Unchained.
Remember me?
I just love the look of satisfaction on Ben's face when he says the quote.
What are you talking about?
Like,
Like you were like you just said the quote and then you were like, you were like, I nailed it.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why Joe got it.
You have a couple times where it was dumbfounded how nailed it. Like the English accent, nailed it.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's our review for Blade Runner. We love you, and thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Anytime.
And we'll see you very soon,
Don't
guys.
say that. He'll make you come all the time.
Thanks for watching.